The hallway was silent, except for the soft humming of a vacuum cleaner. Sunlight slipped through tall windows, making the marble floors shine. Portraits of famous actors and directors hung on the walls of the quiet private rehab center. But none of them smiled anymore, not really. Behind one of the wooden doors, in a room that smelled like lavender and sadness, a boy sat in a wheelchair. His name was Liam. He was 9 years old, and he hadn't spoken in almost a year. His legs didn't move anymore. His eyes rarely blinked. His world was quiet. And outside that room, leaning on the doorframe with tired eyes and a coffee that had gone cold, stood his father, Keanu Reeves. But no one knew that. Not here. Not in this quiet place where even the nurses avoided the gaze of the man in the HOODIE. He had rented the entire West Wing for privacy. He didn't want special treatment. He just wanted his son to heal. But healing never came. Not after the accident. Not after the car spun off the icy road. Not after the world turned upside down in just 5 seconds. Keanu had lost so much that night. But losing his son's laughter, that was the part he couldn't recover from. The nurses were kind. The therapists were patient. But nothing worked. Liam didn't respond to anything. He wouldn't speak. He wouldn't move. He barely looked at anyone. So Keanu stayed. Every single day, he sat beside the bed. Read books. Told stories. Sometimes just cried quietly when Liam was asleep. The world had forgotten about him. The movie deals stopped. The interviews ended. But he didn't care, because this was the only thing that mattered. Now. His son. And then, one Tuesday morning, everything changed. Keanu had stepped outside the room for 5 minutes. Just 5. He needed fresh air. He needed to breathe. He walked down the hallway, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor. And that's when he heard something strange coming from Liam's room. Music. Faint. Soft. An old song. Something classical. Something gentle. His heart stopped. He rushed to the door and slowly pushed it open. And what he saw made him freeze. Inside the room, a woman in a janitor's uniform was dancing. Slowly, gracefully. She was spinning in gentle circles beside Liam's wheelchair. And Liam was smiling. His eyes were open. His lips curved upward. He didn't speak. He didn't move. But his face glowed with something Keanu hadn't seen in so long. Hope. The woman hadn't seen him yet. She just kept dancing. No music player in sight. Just her humming the melody with soft feet gliding across the floor. And Liam's gaze followed her like sunlight follows the dawn. Keanu's single quotes' throat tightened. He didn't want to interrupt. He didn't want to break the spell. So he stepped back and closed the door quietly. He waited outside for the music to stop. When the door finally opened, the woman stepped out, surprised to see him. Her name tag read Rosa. She looked down immediately, embarrassed. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to." Keanu stopped her. "What did you do in there?" he asked, his voice low. She looked up, unsure if she was about to be fired. "I just danced," she said softly. "I clean that room every day, and he never blinks. But today, I hummed an old song my grandma used to love." And he smiled. "I couldn't help it. I danced. I didn't know anyone was watching." Keanu didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. And then, he nodded. "Thank you," he said quietly. "You've done more than anyone else has." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She opened her mouth to say something, but he walked past her. Into the room, Liam looked at him, still smiling. And for the first time in months, Keanu whispered something he had almost forgotten how to say. "Hi, buddy." That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He sat in the corner of the room, staring at his son, still thinking about Rosa. How did a simple cleaning lady reach Liam in a way no doctor had? What magic had she touched? The next morning, he found her in the break room, sipping instant coffee alone. He sat down across from her. "Tell me the song," he said. She smiled. "It's called The River's Edge. It's an old folk song. From Mexico. Very slow, very soft. Can you teach me?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Why?" she asked after a pause. He looked her in the eyes. "Because I want to dance with my son too." Every afternoon after that, Rosa came back. She didn't just clean. She danced. And slowly, day by day, Liam's smiles grew stronger. His fingers twitched. His eyes followed movement. He even began to hum, ever so slightly, copying her soft melodies. Keanu watched from the corner every time. And one day, he stood up. He stepped forward. And together, he and Rosa danced beside the boy in the wheelchair. Not perfect. Not elegant. But full of life. And Liam began to cry. Silent tears rolled down his cheeks. And Keanu cried too, because that was the first sign of feeling. Of memory. Of love still inside. Outside the room, the other staff started whispering, "Why is she in there every day? Why is the father dancing? What's going on with the boy?" Some thought Rosa had crossed a line, others were inspired, but nobody could deny something was changing. One day, the head of the center called Keanu into her office. She was polite but firm. "Mr. Reeves, we've noticed the change. It's incredible. But Rosa is not a therapist. She's a janitor. We can't allow her to keep doing this." Keanu looked at her calmly. "Then promote her," he said. "Make her one." "That's not how it works." Keanu stood up. "It is now," he said. "She's the first person who reached my son. If you don't promote her, I'll hire her. Myself, full-time, double salary, and I'll still fund your entire wing for the next year." The director blinked. "You do that." Keanu nodded. "Liam is worth it, and so is Rosa." Rosa got the call that evening. She cried on the phone, then hugged her own daughter tightly, whispering, "God is good." And the next morning, she showed up wearing new shoes and a nervous smile. She didn't clean. She danced. She taught. She became a symbol of healing in that place, and people started calling it the Room of Light. But deep down, Keanu knew something bigger was happening, because Liam was beginning to move again. He lifted his hand for the first time in 11 months. He reached for Rosa. He reached for his father. And one evening, just as the sun dipped below the trees outside the window, Liam opened his mouth and whispered a single word, "Dad." Keanu dropped to his knees. He covered his mouth. His body shook with sobs, and Rosa turned away, tears in her eyes. She had helped bring life back into that room. But something else was happening too. Keanu began to feel again, not just as a father, but as a man. And he started to notice the way Rosa smiled, the way she looked at Liam with gentle eyes, the way she never asked for anything. He felt something he hadn't felt in years, but he was afraid to name it, because he didn't know if he deserved it. He thought he had lost everything. But now, because of a woman with tired shoes and a melody in her heart, maybe there was still something to hope for. He didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning, because the past wasn't finished with him, and one secret, hidden deep inside Rosa's life, was about to surface. A truth that would shock them both, and Liam would be the one to discover it. The sun rose gently over the hills behind the rehab center, casting a golden glow through the trees. Inside Liam's room, soft music played from a small speaker Rosa had brought with her. Keanu sat beside the bed, holding his son's hand. It had been 3 days since Liam whispered "Dad," and Keanu still replayed that moment every night. Before falling asleep, Rosa entered quietly, wearing a long navy blue skirt and a white blouse, no longer in her janitor's uniform. Her eyes lit up when she saw Keanu already sitting there. "You're early," she smiled. "Couldn't sleep?" He said. "Me neither." They shared a short laugh, gentle and warm. Liam smiled when he saw her. He didn't speak this time, but he didn't need to. His eyes sparkled, his fingers moved. He reached out, and Rosa took his hand without hesitation. Every day after that, Rosa came not only to dance, but to teach Liam movement again. She used scarves, soft balls, even feathers, anything to help him feel without pressure. And Liam responded. He tried. He moved. He sometimes cried when it was hard, but Rosa always told him the same thing. We do not have to be fast. We just have to be brave. And every time, Keanu looked at her like she was magic. One afternoon, after a therapy session, Keanu walked Rosa to the break room. "I don't know how you do it," he said. "Do what?" she asked. "Sipping tea, stay so gentle, when the world is not." Her smile faded a little. "I wasn't always gentle," she whispered. Keanu tilted his head. What do you mean? She stared at the floor. But before she could answer, a nurse entered the room. Mr. Reeves, Liam is asking for you. Keanu stood up quickly and touched Rosa's shoulder. We'll finish that talk, he said. But Rosa just nodded, her eyes suddenly distant. Later that night, after Liam fell asleep, Keanu walked out onto the balcony just outside the rehab center. He needed air. He needed to think. He needed to understand why his heart felt so strange around Rosa. Was it hope? Was it something deeper? He stared up at the stars. And for the first time in so long, he whispered, "Thank you." The next morning, something unusual happened. Liam was holding a drawing. His therapist said he made it during art hour. When Keanu looked closely, he felt a chill run down his spine. The drawing showed Rosa standing in front of a small house. Beside her stood a little boy, and behind the house was a giant shadow, like a man with no face. And in the corner, written in shaky letters, was a word Liam hadn't spoken yet: danger. Keanu sat down, heart pounding. He didn't want to scare Liam, so he smiled and said gently, "Who's this?" Liam pointed to the boy. "Me." Then he pointed to the shadow. "Before." Keanu was confused. Before what? But Liam just looked down. He wouldn't say more. Later that day, Keanu brought the drawing to Rosa. They sat under a tree near the center's garden, where patients often took their walks. He showed her the paper. Her face changed instantly. Her hands began to tremble, and then she whispered something that made Keanu's heart skip a beat. "He remembers." "Remembers what?" Keanu asked, voice low. Rosa didn't answer. Instead, tears rolled down her cheeks, and she said something Keanu didn't expect. "I used to have a son." The wind picked up slightly, brushing the leaves. Keanu sat very still. "What happened to him?" he asked softly. Rosa wiped her eyes. "His name was Marco. He was 8. She took a deep breath. "His father was not kind, not safe. I tried to protect Marco. But we had no money, no family. I worked 3 jobs. One night, he came home angry, shouting. I hid Marco in the closet." Her voice broke. He never made it out. Keanu closed his eyes. A long silence passed between them. "What happened after?" he asked. "I ran," she whispered. "I lost everything. The court said I should have done more. But I had nothing, no power, no support. I was broken. I started cleaning floors. I moved cities. I changed my name. I started again." Keanu looked at her, stunned. "I've never told anyone that," Rosa said, "until now." And then she stood. "Please don't judge me." Keanu rose to. He gently touched her arm. "I won't," he said, "but I will thank you, because whatever pain you lived through made you strong enough to reach Liam." But something deeper stirred inside Keanu now. Liam's drawing. The shadow. The word danger. What if Liam had seen something during the accident? Something they didn't know. He had been quiet for so long. Maybe he was starting to remember. Keanu didn't sleep that night. He stared at his son's drawings on the wall, and he realized one detail in the drawing kept bothering him: the car in the background, the one behind the house. It had a symbol. A strange bird, and it wasn't their car. The next morning, Keanu took the drawing to the police. He didn't share who he was. He just said his son remembered something from a traumatic incident. A detective looked at the picture and frowned. "This bird, it's a gang symbol," he said. "It belongs to a group that runs illegal transport up north." Keanu's stomach dropped. "You're sure?" "Positive," the officer said. "We've been after them for a while." "What's your son's connection?" Keanu didn't answer. He just took the drawing back and left quietly. When he returned, Rosa was already dancing with Liam again. But Keanu stood outside the room, watching. He realized something else. Something that chilled him. What if Liam's accident wasn't an accident? What if the car that hit them had been following? What if someone wanted him gone? He had made enemies in Hollywood before, but nothing serious. Nothing dangerous. Or so he thought. Now everything felt different. The smile on Liam's face, the kindness in Rosa's eyes. The drawing, the shadow. The danger. They were all connected somehow. Later that evening, Keanu sat beside Rosa as Liam slept. I think someone caused the crash, he said. Rosa looked at him, stunned. Why would anyone do that? I don't know, he replied. But Liam is remembering things, and I'm starting to realize. I ignored a lot. He pulled out an old folder. Before the accident, I got a message, a threat. I thought it was just a troll. He showed her a screenshot. It said, "You took the role. Now pay the price." Rosa stared at it. What role? A film, Keanu said. I turned down something dangerous, a producer with ties to crime. They said it would be a global project, but I walked away. He looked at her with steady eyes. A week later, we crashed, Rosa whispered. They didn't want you. They wanted to scare you. And they hurt Liam instead, Keanu said through gritted teeth. But he wasn't going to run anymore. He was going to protect his son, and he was going to find the truth. But even as he made that promise, someone was already watching. A figure in a car across the street. Camera in hand. Phone recording. And behind the tinted window, a familiar shadow sat quietly. Smiling. The sky outside was covered in soft gray clouds, and the light through the rehab room windows felt gentle, almost shy. Keanu sat by his son's bed, his fingers lightly holding Liam's hand. Rosa stood near the doorway, her face calm but thoughtful. As a slow melody played on the small speaker beside the window, Liam looked peaceful. But Keanu's mind wasn't. His thoughts raced. The drawing, the symbol on the car, the shadow figure, the producer who had threatened him. Every thread felt loose, but dangerous. And Liam, his little boy who had barely spoken a word in a year, was slowly remembering something the world wasn't ready to hear. After Rosa left that afternoon, Keanu called his lawyer. I need all the files from that project I turned down last year, he said. The one from Volton Studios, the one with Silas Hart. The lawyer paused on the other end. You sure? Keanu, that one got buried deep. Shady funding, shell companies. Everyone walked away. Everyone but him, Keanu said. Just send me what you can. He hung up and looked at Liam, who had fallen asleep again. Keanu leaned in and whispered, whatever you remember, buddy, we'll face it together. Meanwhile, Rosa walked home slowly, her shoes pressing softly into the pavement. She passed by a man sitting on a bench outside the rehab center. She didn't look at him. She didn't notice the camera hidden in his newspaper. She didn't hear the soft click as he captured a photo of her face. But the man did notice something else. He noticed the worn necklace around her neck, a tiny silver pendant shaped like a wing. And that was all he needed. He smiled. Got up and walked away, dialing a number. I found her, he said, and you're not going to believe who she is. Back at the center, Liam had a strange moment during physical therapy. He was stretching his arm slowly, guided by a therapist, when he suddenly froze. His eyes widened. His hand began to shake. What is it? The therapist asked. Liam whispered one word. Glass. The therapist called Keanu immediately. When Keanu arrived, Liam was curled up under a blanket, holding Rosa's scarf to his chest. He looked up at his dad and said softly, there was glass everywhere. After the loud sound, Keanu knelt down beside him. What else do you remember, Liam? Liam pointed to the drawing pinned to the wall, the one with the car. He followed us, he whispered. Before the crash, I saw him in the mirror. Keanu felt a chill run through his body. He held Liam tighter and said, you're safe now. No one will hurt you again. But he knew it wasn't true. Not yet. Not until he found out who the man was and what he really wanted. That night, Keanu couldn't sleep. He walked out onto the garden path outside the center. He needed to breathe. He needed to clear his head. But as he turned the corner, he saw Rosa, sitting on a bench, looking up at the stars. He joined her silently. They sat for a while before she spoke. Liam is remembering, isn't he? Keanu nodded. Double quotes. I don't know how to help him through it, he admitted. Just stay, she said. Sometimes being beside someone is the most powerful thing you can do. He looked at her and asked gently, can I ask you something personal? She hesitated, then nodded. What was the wing around your neck? The necklace. Her fingers touched it automatically. It belonged to Marco, she said. My son. It was part of a charm he made for me before. Before everything. Keanu watched her closely. Do you still believe he's with you? She smiled faintly. I feel him sometimes. Like a breeze on a hot day. Like music when no one is singing. Keanu looked down. I feel Jennifer too. He said. Rosa looked confused. Your sister? She asked. Keanu nodded. She passed away years ago. She was always the brave one. When the world felt too heavy, she used to say, don't let pain turn you into a stranger. Rosa whispered. She was right. They sat in silence again. But something was changing between them. Something delicate. Like the start of a song. The next day, the envelope arrived. No name. No return address. Just a plain manila envelope left at the center's front desk. It was addressed to Keanu. Inside were printed photos. Blurry, but clear enough to recognize faces. One photo showed Rosa. One showed Rosa with Liam. One showed them dancing. But the last photo stopped Keanu cold. It showed Rosa, years ago. Younger, thinner, holding the hand of a small boy. Marco. And beside them was a man with dark glasses and a cruel smile. The caption on the back read, she knows more than you think. Keanu's hands shook. His mind spun. Who had sent these? And why now? He looked at the back again. A second note was written in small letters. Ask her about Silas Hart. Keanu waited until Rose arrived that evening. He didn't know how to ask. He didn't want to break the fragile peace they had built. But Liam was already asleep, and the photo burned in his pocket. He stepped out onto the porch and waited for her to arrive. When he saw her, he didn't smile. She noticed immediately. What's wrong? She asked. He handed her the photo. She stared at it in silence, then sat down slowly on the bench. How long did you know him? Keanu asked gently. Who? She whispered. Silas Hart, he said. The man who threatened me, the one tied to the film I walked away from, the one who might have caused the crash. Rosa didn't answer right away. Then finally, she spoke. He was Marco's father. Keanu's breath caught. You were married to him. Briefly, she said. I didn't know what he was then. He said he was a businessman. He gave me gifts, made promises, but he was never around. And when he came home, he was violent. Her voice cracked. When I tried to leave, he threatened me, said he'd make sure no one ever believed me. And after Marco, after that night, I ran. I changed my name. I disappeared. Keanu sat beside her. His mind raced. That means, he started. He's the one behind all this. Rosa finished. He hurt me, and now he's hurting you. Through Liam. They sat together in the fading light, the truth heavy between them. I wanted to tell you, Rosa said, tears in her eyes, but I was afraid you'd send me away. I didn't want to lose you. Or Liam. Keanu looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, You're not losing us. He reached for her hand and held it tightly. But across town, in a dark room with multiple monitors, Silas Hart watched them. He zoomed in on the live camera feed of the porch. He saw them holding hands. He saw the fire returning to Keanu's eyes, and he didn't like it. He turned to the man beside him. Move to phase 2, he said coldly. What's phase 2? The man asked. Take the boy. Meanwhile, Liam was asleep peacefully in his bed. His hand rested on a small paper flower Rosa had folded for him earlier, and for the first time in nearly a year, he smiled in his sleep. But outside, danger was already moving closer, and everything was about to change. The moon was high in the sky, casting pale silver light through the window blinds of the rehab center. Inside Liam's room, everything looked peaceful. The boy slept with his head slightly turned, clutching the small paper flower Rosa had folded for him. The only sound was the soft hum of the night monitor beside his bed. But beyond the walls, something dark was already in motion. In the woods behind the rehab building, 2 figures moved silently through the trees, dressed in black, masked, and carrying no weapons, just a stretcher, a dark van waiting nearby, and orders to follow. The man who hired them had made one thing clear. Bring the boy, unharmed, unnoticed, fast. Keanu sat on the porch of the guest wing, unable to sleep. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp. To sharp. He couldn't stop thinking about what Rosa had said. Silas Hart, Marco's father. the producer who had threatened Keanu. The same man connected to Rose's dark past. The same man, Keanu now believed, had been behind the crash. Liam hadn't just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Someone had targeted them. And now Keanu understood why. This wasn't revenge. It was silence. Silas wanted his secrets buried. And Liam remembered too much. Keanu was about to go inside when his phone buzzed. A message from a number he didn't recognize. "You were warned. Now you'll understand." Keanu's body stiffened. He ran. He sprinted down the hallway, pushing through doors until he reached Liam's room. He threw it open. Empty. His heart dropped. The bed was still warm. The sheets pulled aside. No broken glass. No sound. Just gone. Keanu single quotes as hands shook. He reached for the emergency button on the wall and slammed it. The alarm echoed through the building. Nurses rushed in. Security arrived. But the cameras had already been looped. No footage. No trace. Liam had vanished. Rosa was woken by the sirens. She ran barefoot across the lawn, heart pounding, tears forming before she even knew why. Keanu met her at the room. "They took him," he said, voice shaking with rage. "They took Liam." Rosa covered her mouth with both hands. "Who?" she cried. Keanu single quotes S eyes were dark now. The calm, gentle man was gone. "Silas," he said. He made his move. The police arrived within the hour. But they had no leads. No fingerprints. No demands. And Keanu knew why. This wasn't about money. This was about silence. Liam knew something. Something that made Silas nervous. Rosa stood in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, shivering. "What does he want?" she asked. Keanu looked at her. "Control," he said. "He wants to remind us that he's still powerful and that we're nothing." "He's wrong," Rosa whispered. Keanu walked out of the building, past the reporters who had already started gathering. He got in his truck. Rosa climbed in beside him. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the last place I ever wanted to go," he said. "Where's that?" "Silas's estate. But it's locked down, guarded. I won't knock," Keanu replied. Meanwhile, inside a cold warehouse outside the city, Liam sat strapped into a wheelchair in a dimly lit room. He wasn't hurt. He wasn't scared. Not anymore. He stared straight ahead, silent. A man entered the room. Tall, expensive suit, long coat. Silas Hart. He knelt beside Liam and spoke in a smooth voice. "Hello, little one. I heard you've been remembering things." Liam didn't reply. Silas smiled faintly. "That's okay. You don't have to speak. We're going to play a game. If you win, I let you go. If you lose, you forget everything." He pulled out a black box. Inside it was a small headset. He placed it beside Liam. "You see, your daddy made a mistake. He thought he could turn me down and walk away. But people like him, they don't just disappear. They obey, or they pay." Liam's hand tightened around the paper flower still in his pocket. He didn't speak, but his heart beat faster. Not in fear, but in memory. Keanu's single quotes S truck stopped outside a long, winding gate in the hills. Beyond it stood Silas's estate. Tall, fences, guards, cameras. But Keanu didn't stop to wait. He pulled out a small black case from the glove box. Rosa looked at it. "What is that?" "Something I hoped I'd never use again," he said. Inside the case was a badge. A real one. With a seal. "Not Hollywood. Not police. A different agency." "You worked with them?" Rosa asked, stunned. "Years ago," Keanu said, before acting. "When my sister passed, I left. They wiped my file, gave me peace. So why now?" "Because this isn't acting anymore." He walked up to the gate. Showed the badge. The guard hesitated, then nodded. They opened the gate. Rosa followed close behind. "You're not afraid?" she whispered. Keanu looked at her. "I already lost too much," he said. "I'm not losing him." Inside the warehouse, Silas prepared the headset. Liam stared at it. Then whispered, "I remember." Silas froze. "What did you say?" "I saw your car," Liam said. "After the crash, you were there." Silas narrowed his eyes. "Then you know too much," he whispered. He reached for the headset. But Liam moved first. He reached into his pocket and crushed the flower in his fist, and the tiny tracker inside the flower Sent out a signal. Straight to Keanu's phone. Keanu single quotes as screen lit up. He swerved the truck onto a dirt path. He's in a warehouse, he said, 30 minutes away. How did he? Rosa asked. I put a tracker in the flour, Keanu said, just in case. They arrived fast. Keanu stormed the building. The guards weren't ready. He moved through them like water, fast, silent, precise. His old training returned like fire through his veins. He kicked open the door. Liam. Silas turned, shocked. You don't belong here, he sneered. Keanu walked forward slowly. Neither do you. I gave you a chance, Silas growled. You could have had everything. I already do, Keanu said. He stepped between Silas and Liam. You're not touching him, Silas laughed. What will you do? Fight me? No, Keanu said. I'll expose you. He pulled out his phone and pressed play. A recording played. Silas single quotes S voice. Clear and sharp. If you win, I let you go. If you lose, you forget everything. The police were already on their way. Rosa had sent them the location. Sirens echoed in the distance. Silas's smile faded. He turned to run, but Rosa was standing in the doorway. And this time, she wasn't afraid. She stepped forward and slapped him. That was for Marco, she whispered. Silas fell to his knees. Hours later, the building was swarming with officers. Liam was taken home safely. Keanu sat beside him. Rosa held his hand, and the world, for the first time, felt right again. 3 weeks later, Silas' heart was behind bars. Every secret was revealed. The crash was proven intentional. Rosa's name was cleared. Liam spoke more and more every day. He even started physical therapy with hope in his eyes. And one night, after dinner, as the stars came out, he looked at his dad and said, You didn't give up on me. Keanu smiled. Never, he said. Liam looked at Rosa and added, You didn't either. And Rosa leaned forward and kissed his forehead. You saved yourself, she said. We just stayed. But the most surprising moment came a month later. On the same porch where they had first talked about pain, healing, and wings, Keanu took Rosa's hand. Stay with us, he said. As what? She asked, smiling. Family, he whispered. And she nodded. With tears in her eyes. Because sometimes, the people who dance in the quietest rooms become the ones who save everything. The morning sun poured into the small kitchen where Keanu, Rosa, and Liam sat together. The scent of pancakes filled the air. Laughter echoed off the walls, gentle, sweet. The kind of laughter that had once been impossible to imagine. Liam had just told his first full joke. It wasn't very funny, but the way he giggled at his own punchline made Keanu's eyes well up with tears. Rosa smiled from across the table, watching Liam spread jam on his pancake, his hands still trembling slightly, but improving every day. He looked up at his dad and said, I want to walk again. Keanu leaned over and took his hand. Then we'll help you, he said softly. One step at a time. Outside, birds chirped. As the world carried on, unaware of how far Liam had come. No one could have guessed that just 2 months ago, he had been taken from this same home by men trying to bury the truth. No one could have imagined that a boy who hadn't spoken in nearly a year was now smiling, planning, hoping. But even in this quiet peace, something lingered in Rosa's heart. Memories. Pain. A story she had buried for too long, and it was time to face it. That afternoon, Rosa stood in front of a small wooden box in her closet. She opened it slowly. Inside were photos of Marco. A drawing he made, his baby shoes. A letter she had never sent. She sat down on the edge of the bed and unfolded the letter with trembling hands. It was addressed to Marco's father, Silas Hart, but she had never mailed it. Instead, she had run. But now Silas was behind bars. The case had gone public. Journalists covered the story everywhere. How the powerful producer Silas Hart had faked an accident to scare Keanu into silence. How a cleaning lady and her truth had unraveled years of lies. The world now knew Rosa's name, and more importantly, they knew her story. Rosa walked into the kitchen where Keanu and Liam were finishing their board game. I need to go somewhere today, she said gently. Alone. Keanu looked up. Where? To Marco's grave, she whispered. I haven't been back since Since I left. Liam reached for her hand. Can I come too? She froze. Really? I want to meet him, Liam said. I think he helped me. Keanu nodded. Then we all go. They drove for 2 hours to a quiet cemetery in a small town nestled between hills. The place was nearly empty. Birds sang in the trees. Rosa walked slowly, her steps unsure. But Keanu held her hand. Liam followed in his wheelchair, a folded note in his lap. They reached the stone. Simple. No dates. No flowers. Just the name, Marco Elias. Rosa fell to her knees. She touched the stone with her palm. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have protected you better. Keanu knelt beside her and placed a small white rose on the grass. Liam rolled closer. He opened the folded note and placed it under the rose. This is from me, he said. Rosa looked at him, confused. What is it? Liam shrugged. I just wrote what I felt. She unfolded it. In messy, big letters, it said, Dear Marco, thank you for helping Rosa dance again. Thank you for helping me smile. Love, Liam. Rosa broke down. And in the quiet wind that passed through the trees, it felt like someone was listening. On the drive back, none of them spoke much, but something inside Rosa had changed. A weight had been lifted. She wasn't hiding anymore. And for the first time, she didn't feel broken. She felt brave. The next morning, Rosa sat beside Liam during his therapy session. He was trying to stand again. His legs trembled. His hands gripped the bars. The therapist encouraged him softly. And then, something incredible happened. Liam took one shaky step forward. Keanu stood nearby, watching through the glass window. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. He just stared as his son took a second step, and then a third, and then collapsed into Rosa's arms. Laughing, I did it, he shouted. Rosa hugged him tightly, tears in her eyes. Keanu rushed in and knelt down beside him. You're amazing, he whispered. You're stronger than anyone I know. Liam grinned. I want to walk all the way to the oak tree outside. Keanu smiled back. Then that's our next mission. Later that night, as they sat under the stars, Liam leaned against his dad. Do you think Marco can hear us? He asked. Keanu nodded slowly. I do. Liam looked up at Rosa. Can I call you something special? Of course, she said, surprised. Can I call you my dancing angel? Rosa laughed softly, eyes filled with emotion. Yes, she whispered. I'd love that. Keanu watched them both and knew something deep in his heart. They weren't just a boy and a woman who helped him. They were family now. But just as peace settled in, something unexpected happened. An envelope arrived in the mail. No return address. Keanu opened it carefully. Inside was a letter. Typed. Short. Cold. You may have stopped one storm, but there are others who remember. This is bigger than Silas. Watch. You're back. Keanu stared at it. His hands tightened. He showed Rosa. She looked up, suddenly afraid. Do you think it's true? She asked. Keanu nodded slowly. Silas was powerful, but he wasn't alone. What do we do? He looked out the window, where Liam played in the grass under the sun. Then he whispered, we protect what we love. Keanu made a call. An old number. A voice answered. Hello, it's me, Keanu said. You're not supposed to use this line. I need help, Keanu said. You're out. Not anymore. The next day, Keanu began training again. Not for a role. But for real. He woke up before dawn, ran for miles. Practiced combat drills in the backyard. Liam and Rosa watched from the window, confused but proud. Is Dad okay? Liam asked. He's just making sure no one can ever hurt us again, Rosa said. But the letter had stirred something, a shadow of a bigger threat. And while Liam took his first steps toward healing, Keanu was preparing for something darker. Rosa knew it too. And though she had just faced her past, she feared their future still held another test. A secret, a name, a final piece of the puzzle that neither of them expected. And it was about to knock on their door. The wind carried the soft sound of laughter through the open windows of the little house on the hill. Birds fluttered across the morning sky, and sunlight painted the porch in gold. Inside, Liam took careful steps across the living room floor, each movement slow but proud. Rosa clapped softly as he made it to the window. That's 10 steps, she smiled. 10 today, Liam said, breathing hard. 12 tomorrow. Keanu leaned against the doorframe, watching them. He didn't say anything, just smiled. His heart was full, but his eyes still carried the weight of something unseen. Because ever since that letter came, he had known Silas wasn't the end. And this wasn't over. Rosa found Keanu in the garage later that afternoon, going through an old lockbox. She stepped in quietly. "You okay?" "I don't know," he said. "There's a name I keep seeing in the files Silas left behind. A man called Von Malik. He was listed as a silent partner. Everything goes back to him." "Do you know where he is?" Rosa asked. "I didn't," Keanu said, "but now I do." He held up a photo. It showed a tall man stepping out of a black car beside a private plane. The date was last week. "Someone sent this to me. No note, no signature, just the photo. A warning?" Rosa asked. "Or an invitation?" Keanu said. Later that night, as they sat around the dinner table, Liam pushed his plate away and said, "I want to tell my story." Keanu and Rosa looked at him, surprised. "What do you mean?" Keanu asked. "I want to tell people what happened to me," Liam said. "What Silas did. How Rosa helped me. How dancing saved me." Rosa put her hand over her mouth. "Sweetheart, are you sure?" Liam nodded. "If I tell the truth, maybe other kids won't be afraid to speak to." Keanu blinked away tears. "Then we'll help you," he said. The next week, Liam recorded a video. It was simple. No lights, no background music, just him, sitting in a chair, speaking from the heart. "My name is Liam," he said. "I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk. And one day, a lady danced for me, and it made me smile again." He paused, then added, "Bad people hurt me, but good people stayed. And now, I believe in hope." They posted it online. Within 24 hours, it had over 2 million views. Thousands of comments poured in. Families from around the world shared similar stories. And people called Liam the boy who brought kindness back. But with the light came shadows. A new message appeared in Keanu's inbox. This one wasn't a threat. It was an address, just a street name, and the words, "One last door to open." Keanu stared at the message for a long time. He didn't want to go, but he knew he had to. "You'll stay with Liam?" he asked Rosa the next morning. "Of course," she said, "but come back safe." Keanu nodded. The address led him to an abandoned theater in a forgotten part of the city. The doors creaked open. Inside, the lights flickered, and at the far end of the stage stood a man. Tall, gray suit, cold eyes. "You must be Von Malik," Keanu said. The man smiled. "You're not easy to scare," Von replied. "You tried." Von chuckled. "We never tried to kill you. Just push you, keep you quiet. Silas was foolish, messy." Keanu stepped closer. "Why come after my son?" Von's smile faded. "Because children make adults weak, and weak people don't fight back." Keanu stared at him. "Then you don't know me at all." Von shrugged. "It's over now. Silas is gone. The rest of us will vanish too. The boy, he can speak all he wants. No one listens to truth anymore." Keanu pulled something from his coat. A recording device. It had been on the whole time. "Maybe," he said, "but sometimes they listen when it's personal." He turned and walked out, leaving Von behind, frozen in disbelief. The next morning, national news picked up the story. Secret recording reveals dark truth behind Hollywood power circle. Keanu Reeves helps expose abuse ring connected to Silas Hart. Child's story inspires global movement for justice. More arrests followed. Investigations reopened. And one by one, the doors of silence began to open. At home, Liam watched the news with wide eyes. Rosa wrapped her arms around him. Keanu stood nearby, quiet. "Did we do something good?" Liam asked. Keanu nodded. "We did something brave." Months passed. Liam walked more every day. He no longer needed the wheelchair except for long distances. His voice was strong. His eyes were bright. He was healing, and so was Rosa. One evening, while they watched the sun dip behind the trees, Rosa reached into her pocket and handed Keanu a small envelope. "What's this?" he asked. Something I kept for a long time, she said. Inside was a photograph. Marco as a baby, being held by a woman in a hospital bed. Keanu stared. The woman in the photo was Jennifer, his sister. He looked up, stunned. That's Rosa. Nodded. Double quotes. Yes, she whispered. Marco's birth mother. We were both in the shelter. She gave him to me when she got sick. She asked me to raise him. She said, tell him his real family is full of fighters. Keanu covered his mouth. Marco was my nephew. Yes, Rosa said. You raised him as your son. She nodded again, tears in her eyes. I loved him like my own. Keanu sat down slowly. This whole time, we were already family. And now, everything made sense. Why Liam connected with Rosa. Why their hearts fit together so easily. Why Marco had seemed so close. Because in the end, love had already built the bridge between them. They just hadn't known it. A year later, they stood together under a tall oak tree. Liam ran through the grass, strong legs carrying him farther each time. Keanu held Rosa's hand. They had bought a small house in the countryside. Quiet. Safe. And every Sunday, they danced. On the porch. In the kitchen. Sometimes even in the rain. Not because they had to, but because dancing had saved them all. In the end, it wasn't a doctor who healed Liam. It wasn't a treatment or a surgery. It was a woman with tired hands and an open heart. A song hummed in a quiet room. A boy who believed again. And a man who refused to let go. Because sometimes the ones who sweep the floors carry the brightest light.